film industry has been adapting other forms of media for decades. Originally, this started with books and novels, with the first adaptation in 1899 by George Méliès of the Grimm fairy tale of Cinderella. Disney famously built their movie empire using old Grimm's tales such as Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, as well as other stories such as Aladdin from A Thousand and One Nights and The Hunchback of Notre Dame by Victor Hugo. Therefore, it makes sense that the $86 billion film industry would look to the $522 billion video game industry for inspiration. Video games such as the Elder Scrolls series and the Legend of Zelda series feature immense settings and lore to supplement the game's plot. For example, over 300 in-world books were written for the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. This level of world building is a treasure trove to prospective movie studios, with larger worlds allowing for more character details, grander plots, and yes, that means more sequels.
What?
However, video game to film adaptations hadn't exactly wowed audiences, according to an article by Will Partin for Medium in 2017. To date, not a single video game adaptation has managed to crack 50% on Rotten Tomatoes. Since Will's article came out, video game adaptations have exploded with critical praise. In 2019, we saw the release of Pokemon Detective Pikachu, which garnered 68% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Pika.
And this positive streak continued with the likes of Sonic the Hedgehog and its sequel in 2022, achieving 64 and 68% on Rotten Tomatoes respectively.
I gotta go fast.
But why is that? Why are film and TV adaptations getting better all of a sudden? This video essay will explore why video game adaptations were so poor before 2017, and why modern video game adaptations are much more well received. The examples we'll be using will be the infamously terrible 1993 Super Mario Bros. Movie, and the much better TV show adaptation of Fallout by MGM Studios in 2024. Before we get into the video games themselves, however, we need to ask, what even is adaptation? In the academic world, there is a lot of debate around what adaptation actually is. This is because there are differing views surrounding what counts as an original work and what counts as an adaptation. Literary critics such as T.S. Eliot and Northrop Frye said that all art is derived from other art. And this is true. We can see similarities between Shakespeare's Hamlet and Disney's The Lion King. Both stories feature a prince whose father is murdered by his uncle, leading to exile and a quest for revenge. Tropes and cliches will always be found in any piece of art produced. However, Linda Hutcheon, author of The Art of Adaptation, states, "Adaptation must be interpreted as a recreation process through which a product is based primarily on another previous product, but which at the same time must be considered original and independent." So, how exactly do we adapt a video game into a film or TV show? One of the main differences between the medium of video games and films is how characters are portrayed. In video games, the character is usually controlled by the player, who can make different choices that impact the game. However, in film, the actions of the character are already preset. An audience watches a film to see exactly how the characters achieve their goals, rather than figuring it out for themselves. This then may cause a video game character to not translate well onto the big screen.
I come in peace.
Another element that separates video games from the medium of film is time. A video game can take many hours to complete, especially modern games, such as Elden Ring or Red Dead Redemption 2, whereas a film has to compress the story into 2 or 3 hours max, for the benefit of the audience's attention. This might explain the shift from video games being adapted into film to now being adapted into TV shows, such as HBO's The Last of Us and Netflix's The Witcher series. This shift from film to TV allows the exploration of characters, themes and plot over multiple 1 hour-ish episodes. A case of video game adaptations gone wrong can be seen in the 1993 Super Mario Bros. Movie. Even if you're not a video game enthusiast, you'll have probably heard of Mario, the Italian plumber who traverses the Mushroom Kingdom in order to rescue Princess Peach from Bowser, the main antagonist. With over 200 games to his name since his first outing as Jumpman in the 1981 Donkey Kong arcade game, it's understandable that the film industry wanted to cash in on Mario's popularity. But unfortunately for Mario, his first venture into film didn't go quite as planned. The film only received 28% on Rotten Tomatoes and has been reviewed by Collider's Anthony Ciccinimo as, in a word, bad. But why? What made the Super Mario Bros. Movie so bad? It's the fact that it had nothing to do with the game it takes its namesake from. Take the character of Toad. In the Super Mario Bros. Games, he's a cute little cartoon character, whereas in the film he's whatever this is.
Mamma mia!
This complete change in the anatomy of the characters like Toad, to the point of being completely unrecognisable to anyone who's played the game, meant that the main audience of the video game players were left disappointed and confused. The directors Rocky Morton and Annabelle Jankel also opted for a darker, zanier tone, moving the setting from a colourful Mushroom Kingdom to Dino Hatton, a dystopia of dinosaur-human hybrids. According to IMDb, early drafts of the film's script were meant to be more in line with the game's light-hearted nature, to be more family-friendly. This would have included a Disney-style wedding sequence between Mario and his girlfriend Daniela, which was cut once the film hit the editing suite. The reason behind this was Morton and Jankel wanted a film that was much darker in tone, something more like the smash hit 1984 movie Ghostbusters. However, this didn't work out. Casual moviegoers disliked the movie because the story was too outlandish and too reliant on the Mario Brothers name. So why did the movie stray so far from the source material? Reportedly, Nintendo didn't give much guidance on what they wanted from the film, leaving the crew up to their own devices, and because a video game to film adaptation had never been tried before, it became a task of trial and error.
It means that this damn thing doesn't work at all.
The creator of the Mario games, Shigeru Miyamoto, said, "The one thing that I still have some regrets about is that the movie may have tried to get a little too close to what the Mario Brothers video games were, and in that sense, it became a movie that was about a video game, rather than being an entertaining movie in and of itself." And he does have a point. Before 2019, movie studios tried to make films as if they were games. Unlike other adaptations up to this point, such as books, films of video games have to balance story and gameplay. For example, film adaptations of fighting games such as Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter attempted to simulate the rhythm and narrative structure of their respective games, but this couldn't work, as fighting games don't have much in the way of character development or plot. They are simply complete this level, fight this boss again and again. That, coupled with the cast and crew who aren't familiar with the game they're adapting, and it's no wonder that we have a slew of bad video game to film adaptations. A case of video game to TV adaptations done well comes in the form of Amazon Prime's Fallout in 2024, whose first season garnered 94% on Rotten Tomatoes. Originally, Fallout was developed in 1997 by Interplay as a click-and-point adventure game for PC. However, when the Fallout IP was bought by Bethesda in 2004, gameplay shifted to a third/third-person shooter and an open-world role-playing game, as seen in the popular titles of Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, and Fallout 4. The franchise has a unique atom punk aesthetic, as well as leaning into 1950s Americana and retro-futuristic technology. The Fallout games are set in an alternate timeline, where the player assumes the role of a vault dweller, someone who has lived in an underground nuclear bunker and must return to the surface of a post-apocalyptic irradiated American wasteland, filled with mutants, bandits and other deadly creatures, and making decisions which impact the game's story and ending. An issue the writers of the TV show would have faced is with the protagonist. In the Fallout games, the player controls how the character looks and the decisions they make, but in TV and film, the protagonist is set in stone. The directors solved this issue with the use of multiple protagonists. These consist of Lucy, the naive vault dweller, who bears similarities to the many protagonists of the video games, Maximus, a knight of the Brotherhood of Steel, a quasi-religious military group, and Cooper the Ghoul, a human who lived before the nuclear war but mutated due to the prolonged radiation exposure. Introducing original characters with interweaving stories allowed for the exploration element of the game to fit a more linear structure of the television format, whilst also allowing fans to experience a fresh story and plot rather than just re-experiencing the same story in a different medium. The TV series also utilises the atom punk aesthetic to its greatest potential, featuring 1950s era music.
Crawl out through the fallout, baby.
The use of the Power Armor's UI interface, and the inclusion of Dogmeat, a recurring canine companion appearing in all the Fallout games. However, these just aren't simple nods to the game series or Easter eggs for fans. They are used as narrative tools, such as when Lucy rescues Maximus from being permanently locked in his power armor, or when Dogmeat protects the experimental scientist Dr. Wilzig from the betrayal of a fellow scientist. This allows the more casual audience to enjoy the world that has been created without needing prior knowledge from the games. Another reason for the show's success is the influence and guidance Amazon and MGM Studios received from Bethesda's game director and executive producer of the show, Todd Howard. His in-depth knowledge of the Fallout franchise and the world it takes place in meant that the TV show would not only stay faithful to its source material, but also remain close to the genre that the fans of the games were expecting. What studying the Super Mario Bros. Film and the Fallout TV show has taught us is that fans prefer adaptations of video games that complement the world and lore of the video game, rather than just simply recreating a video game into a film. And with the advancement of technology such as AI, virtual reality, and augmented reality, who knows what the future holds?